Some of that information might come as a shock to you. What's up, goblins, and welcome back to the Identity Crisis podcast. We are talking today about communication, and we actually did this one a while back, but we're redoing the episode because the episode that we did, even though it had a ton of great information in it, and we're probably going to forget some of it, even though it had a ton of good information, it was crackly, and people didn't really enjoy they didn't enjoy the fact that it was super crackly, and we don't mind that. But yeah, if you see the dog wandering in and out of frame, this is Odyssey. He is our service dog in training, and he is a good boy. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about communication today, how to establish communication, inner and outer world communication, different forms of communication, and all about communication. So, hi, Auntie. Hi, Auntie. Did you want to say hi? Did you want to say hi? Yeah. Thank you. Little distraction here. Little distraction. I think he's trying to alert. It's kind of what he does when he alerts, but I'm not positive. Sometimes he does it when he's bored, but other times he does it when oh, that's definitely alert. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Come on, good boy. It's anxiety alert. He's telling me to slow down and ground, which is awesome. He's a good man. Love him. He's only 6 months. He's 6 months old today. Odyssey's 6 months old today, guys. Congratulate Odyssey on his birthday. But yeah, so we're gonna start with, I guess, the different forms of communication you can do. Happy your birthday, boy. He's gonna get treats after this, most definitely. He's probably mad that he has to sit through me talking. Okay. Oh, there we go. Alright, move the microphone closer to my face so I can relax, but also talk. So with communication, it's one of the most difficult, but one of the most important things about his... Oh, yes, it's his 6-month birthday today. He's half a year old. He was born October 27th, and today is his 6-month birthday. Holy cow. We've had this boy for 2 months. But yeah, so communication is one of the most difficult things to work on, and one of the most important and crucial tool to work on. So communication can look all sorts of different ways. Communication can look all sorts of different ways. So you could have journals, you can have paintings, you can have places to do poetry. You can have a lot of different forms of communication, and that's all external communication, which is what we're started. That's what we're started on today. So external communication looks like sticky notes hung up all around your room. It could be maybe you have like issues taking your keys with you. This is just an example of self-communication, communicating with yourself, because we all know, people with d.i.d, we forget a lot. We 100% forget just day-to-day things. We lose our wallet all the time, we lose our phone all the time, lose our car keys all the time. So this is kind of a self-communication type of thing. If you have issues losing your keys, try putting your keys on the floor in front of your door, your living room door or front door, whatever you want to call it. Try putting them on like maybe a ottoman, like one of those nice square stool thingies that have the insert, whatever. Try putting it on there. and put that in front of your door so you can't open your door without moving the ottoman. Because then you look down and, oh my gosh, those are my keys. And you grab your keys. Thank goodness I didn't forget. Do the same thing with your wallet and your phone if you need that. But that's a form of self-communication that you can do with yourself if you're forgetful. So you can put sticky notes around. You can have notes just in the kitchen or wherever you're most commonly. That is definitely one of the biggest helps. And I'm actually going to pull up the... we actually have the communication chapter finished of our book. And we still have to add a few things in there. But... drive. I'm just gonna pull that up real quick. Don't mind me. Gotta find that an alarm go off. Nope. Okay, Bible guide. Communicate. Here we go. our boy here. We dropped a chip on the ground. Hi, babe. We dropped a chip on the ground, and he sniffed it and then looked at us and waited until we picked it up and gave it to him. That's how good he is. Like, he is a fantastic dog. We love him so much. I know you're bored. Oh, thank you, Shaderia. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, and I butchered it, but thank you for following. Okay, 1 second. Cat properties, should that up. Second. I guess you can use our inner world, but that's interesting, I guess. I don't know. Okay, here we go. And you guys, this is the communication chapter. So people who are actually not watching but listening on Spotify, we have the communication chapter of our book, D.I.D. Survival Guide, pulled up, and we're just going to go over a couple of things here. I'm just going to downsize so I can actually see chat. Where this be? There we go. Now you should probably be able to see it. So I'm gonna read this first chapter, and then we'll go into the different stuff that we talked about last time as well. Communication is one of the hardest but most important skills when it comes to having d.i.d. The one thing that will guide you through tough situations, making decisions, overcoming trauma, and so much more. When you think about communication with alters, it can feel tight or as if there's a wall posing a barrier stopping you. Amnesia between alters can also pose as a barrier. You can, however, overcome those walls and barriers. With patience and hard work, you should also include your alters in reading this chapter. Let them do a few of the activities throughout if you're feeling up to it. Little to the left, that... Oh, hold on. There we go. Okay, so... This is the basics of what I had already said, and it's one of the most important things that you can do to help your system. Okay, he's just chewing on his duck. And so when you're working on communication, you gotta remember to give yourself patience, or give yourself time. Like, communication isn't gonna be immediate, everyday. I'm gonna have perfect communication. This is great. We're doing awesome. It's not gonna be like that, unfortunately. We're all gonna have our struggles. So give yourself the time to make communication a priority in your life, and slowly it will come to you more naturally. Okay. Starting out, you may feel like a toddler walking around in adult-sized shoes, swimming with uncertainty as you wade your way through and gain structure. You will start to feel more certain, more confident that you can make contact and communicate with your alters. Get your journal for system workout and start with a simple title at the top of the page. A title may seem like something small, almost insignificant. When you have structure, even something as small as a title, it can give you a place to start. It makes large tasks feel more manageable and sorting into smaller individual tasks. So this is definitely just like the intro, and we're just heading into it, letting you know that it's going to be rough. You're gonna have a hard time, but it'll be okay. Be able to work through it. So there's an activity here for those of you watching. You can pause if you're on YouTube, or just write it down or take a screenshot if you're on Twitch. This is just a little activity that you can do. So let me just do this for just a moment. So when you are starting out with communication, you're gonna want to have a way to communicate. So you're gonna want to have your communication notebook, or you're gonna want to have a whiteboard or a piece of paper that you can just put up on the wall, or a dry erase thing from the dollar store. Auntie, what do you have? Oh, it's a box. He has a box. But so yeah, you're gonna want a notebook or a whiteboard, something to be able to write down the communication you want to get out with. We have both. We have a notebook and a whiteboard. And that's going to set you up for success. So when you're starting to communicate with your alters in your journal, and again, we're just talking about external communication, you might not know where to begin or how to start talking with your alters. And maybe for the systems who do have good communication, but they have this one alter that they're having a rough time with, maybe they're new, and they just don't have the communication skills the rest of the system does. So you're going to want to start with just marking down some system rules. You're going to want some system journal rules to help you kind of modify how you're going about your communication journey. So with this, I would label your communication journal, and we will talk about in a future podcast your system work journal. They are going to be two different things. Your system work journal is kind of your gold journal, and your communication journal is when you're trying to talk to one another. So in your communication journal, don't know why about it. So in your communication journal, try coming up with some rules, such as asking alters to name themselves, even if they don't know their name. Try getting some personal information about them, like kind of what they look like. Ask them to write the date if possible and the time, so you can kind of see when they fronted and how they're fronting. Not how they're fronting, but what, just when when they tend to front. We're getting our words mixed up. We've been talking all day. And make that like a page in your journal dedicated to the journal rules, and let that be at the front of your journal. If you're so another thing to add is, if you're going to use the journal only to ask questions, like put that in the rules. Diary entries should go in a different journal, and questions go in this journal, and just talking to one another goes in this journal, or making sections within your journal, that type of thing. That helps with structure, and it helps alters that are fronting to have some sort of guideline into communication. So another thing we get is, and even in this chat, we've been going for 2 hours, and in this chat we've had some people say, well, I haven't gotten any communication with my alters, and that's okay. Starting out, you might not get any response, and they might not realize that what you're trying to do is for them, or if you're trying to talk to them. So try to label it plainly. To anyone that reads this, please, if you're able to answer these questions, ... And then try answering those questions yourself. So if you put, what's your favorite color? What's your name? How old are you? What's your favorite movie? Do you know when you got in the system? Do you know where we are? Things like that. Try answering those questions yourself. My name is Sinka, and I don't know my age, but I have black hair. My favorite color is black, and I'm kind of the color of the black that... I'm kind of the color of black that Anish Kapoor can't have. A lot of people find me scary because they can't perceive what I actually look like, because I don't have any light reflecting off of me. I literally absorb all the light around me. So people can't really understand what I am or who I am, so they get really scared of me. So I would put that in part of it, trying to explain who I am. So just be patient with yourself. There's nothing wrong with you for not being able to communicate with your system. Remember, your system was created as a natural defense. You're going to have amnesia, and it's going to be hard to work through, but you got this. You can do it. So there's no right or wrong starter questions. just set your rules for yourself. And the one that we particular set is try not to get too personal too quickly. And that way, if we're going into like, oh, we got a new altar, all right, let's see what their trauma is, like, they might be overwhelmed by that. Some of us just are outright like, yeah, I got trauma and this is what happened, and I just feel horrible. And that's okay. You can do that. But for the altars that don't really enjoy talking about their trauma, if they have trauma, try starting out with simple things like, what is your name? How old are you? How are you feeling? Do you know how long you've been here? Do you know where you live in the inner world? Is there anything that you want me to know about you? What's your favorite food? Do you understand what's happening? Making sure they're comfortable, especially if they're a new altar. Or an altar that doesn't know that they're in a system, because that does happen. So starting out with a few questions gives your altars a chance to kind of get to know you, to gain some rapport, and not feel threatened by communication, because that's an issue with some systems, is altars will feel threatened by communicating. And creating a welcoming place for them to come to when they are fronting, it shows them that you don't have to be scared. We're a team and we're working together, and it's going to be all right. So just doing that gains their trust, so they feel like they're able to start communicating. And you'll notice if altars are starting to feel more comfortable, they'll give you more information as they go. So try to avoid the questions like, how were you formed, when you're first communicating with them. But when they're getting comfortable, you can start to ask them more personal questions if you feel like they're ready for it. Try to be understanding, especially with altars that are traumatized. And if they do give you information, some of that information might come as a shock to you. A lot of your altars are gonna have some form of trauma or hold a trauma memory, and maybe they're lacking the emotions to go along with it. So just being patient and trying to understand where they're coming from. And again, I know not everybody can afford a therapist, but we do suggest talking with a therapist or a counselor when you're diving into how altars were created and potentially the trauma that they do hold, just because it can be a rough patch to go through. So another way that you can help with communication, and it might not seem like it helps, is to write down how you feel about the communication that you're getting. If an altar shares with you a memory, or if their age brings back something about trauma, try to write down how that makes you feel. Do you feel detached? Do you feel upset, sad, angry? And being able to write the stuff down as it comes to you, that's going to help you work through and process your emotions. And that also shows your altars that they can do the same. The communication will start to come easier as you yourself put out your emotions of how it makes you feel that you're getting communication. What information they shared with you, how is that making you feel as well? And that can also, like I said, that makes other altars feel like they're able to do the same thing. So there is a difference between inward and outward communication. So far we've talked about outward communication. So being able to write in journal, go on whiteboards, put sticky notes up around your house, when you are communicating and you want somebody to answer, put the note or journal entry, put it open and in a place that you go a lot, because then your altar is more likely to see it and more welcome to respond to it. They might feel like it's there. It's glaring at me. They're asking me who I am. Let me go ahead and just write that down. But that's all in external communication. Being able to have external communication is pretty important if you don't have internal communication. And internal communication is one of the harder things to get at. It's being able to speak inwardly at your system. So I think we did this in the last one too. I think we pinpointed Ashley, but we're gonna do it again because Ashley is just so easy to pick on. So if you look inward and you mentally say into your system, you're sending out signals, and you're trying to talk to somebody in your system, and you say, "Hey Ashley, do you feel like fronting?" And she goes, "Hell no." That's still communication. Even though it was technically a negative interaction, that's still going to be communication. And you're still going to be able to have that when you're like that's something you can put in your communication journal. I asked Ashley to front today, and she said, "Hell no." Because any communication is good communication. And so when we talk about internal communication, we try to reiterate that the fact that journaling can be done at any time. You can pull out your journal if you're stopped in a parking lot, or you're in your kitchen, or you're sitting down, you're reading something, and something pops into your mind. You can always journal. That's easy. But internal communication, that you when you're starting out, you kind of need your own personal time to be able to have that internal communication. Because when you're starting out, it takes a lot out of you. I'm going to tell you right now, when you're doing these sessions, and we're going to talk about how long the session should be and how often, when you're doing these sessions, you're going to feel tired afterward. You're going to feel like you want to nap for 4 days and things like that, because it's working through amnesia barriers, and that's mentally fatiguing. Try to remember a time, like you kind of have that memory, like, oh, I was swimming this one day, but I can't remember, did I go get ice cream, or did I just swim? Like, I don't even remember, did I eat? When you're trying to even do that and work through that small amnesia that you have going there, it's going to be rough, and you're going to feel a little bit tired after even doing that small amount. So think of it as trying to work through a larger amnesia barrier, getting to an altar that doesn't really know you or know that they can talk to you. So give yourself time and space to be able to work on it, especially when you're first starting out, because that internal communication, it can really mess you up. It can really make you feel fatigued. So we try to take an hour to 3 hours a week to focus on our internal communication, and that is not all at once. You want to try to spread that out. We do 20 minutes every day or every other day to try and get that internal communication more fluid. But we do not sit down and just take 2 to 3 hours just to just harp on the internal communication, because it's like with anything. If you go to a gym and you're lifting weights and you lift something that's too heavy and you tear a muscle, like, you have to wait for that muscle to heal now. Whereas if you went 10 pounds, 10 pounds, 10 pounds, and then you were able to go up to 15 pounds, doing that slow increment of increasing how much you can handle, that's going to help you a lot more than just trying to rush into communication and just really like hammer on it and try to figure out what you're doing, because that's just going to make you tired. And you have to have patience, and you have to be grounded. There's a lot of things that goes into internal communication, and it's best to do if you have a place that you're able to sit down, relax, and really ground yourself. Which leads into the next point, which is you want to be in a calm place that you won't be interrupted, and you feel safe, and you're able to ground yourself before attempting internal work. It helps to make a better connection with your other alters, and being fully aware of yourself so you can focus on your inner self. And this sounds a lot of like spiritual and whatever, and you can take it that way, but it's also just trying to focus in on yourself. Because as far as I know, I don't know a lot of people that sit down and have a good conversation with themselves about what they want to do with their life and day, and how they feel about certain things. So being able to just being connected with yourself, that's going to really help. Let's see. So we have surface level internal communication. And that's kind of where an alters cook on and they say, hey, did you see that? And you're like, wait, what? And maybe you're able to reply back, maybe you're not. But being able to hear them is a first step forward, and you can try to respond. Maybe they hear you, maybe they don't, but it's still a step toward communication. So working on internal communication strengthens the ability to have that surface level co-conscious communication with each other. So we're talking about mostly working on your full internal communication instead of the surface level passive communication. So after you've been grounded, work with what you know. Perhaps you've been communicating in your journal for some time and would like to have a true conversation. So reach out to a familiar alter that you've been communicating with. Reach out to a familiar alter that you're able to communicate with. You'll probably have better luck doing that, and then you can increase the work from there. When you reach out to a familiar alter, you're able to reconfirm what you already know, ask for their name, and try to project your energy inward. Trying to visualize. So when you're grounding and you're feeling the different areas of your body, we talked about grounding. I don't know if we did it in a podcast or if we just did it in another YouTube video, but when you're grounding, we personally like to feel and do like a body scan. So we scan the top of our head, our forehead, our eyes, our ears, our jaw, and just do kind of a scan of our body to help us ground. And when we're doing that, we visualize our energy field, which it can be tough to figure out, but if you hold your hands close enough to each other, you can feel the energy kind of bouncing off of each other and radiating. So when you're able to feel that, you're able to kind of project it in inner world and make yourself feel like you're in a warm and inviting space. And it makes your alters feel more comfortable because your comfort is just as important as theirs. So when you're able to project warm, comforting feelings, it's just easier to do all of that. Okay. So again, as you're working through this, you're going to feel mentally exhausted. It causes a pretty large mental strain. So give yourself some time for self-care when you're working on your internal communication. Being able to take a walk, breathe some fresh air, go through your self-care list and find the best things to do for you at that point in time. We try to keep internal work to 3 hours a week maximum because of the mental strain that it does cause. It's important to take care of your mental health to ensure positive experiences while working on communication. Because it does take time, and you need to pace yourself, especially if you're feeling like you're just dissociating or becoming less grounded. Give yourself a break. Like, separate your internal work throughout your week. Like 20 minutes before or after bed. When you wake up in the morning, maybe you're laying and you take 20 minutes to wake up. Use that time to be like, hey, is anyone around? Do you want to talk? Maybe you want to front, get co-conscious, and if you receive a response, great. If you don't, that's okay. Communication takes work and time and dedication, and you also have amnesia to work through. That's another hey, you gotta take care of yourself, and you also have to realize you're working through amnesia, and that's hard to do. So if you feel overwhelmed, take a deep breath and give yourself a couple of weeks before you come back to it, because it's exhausting. And when you do come back from a break, if you take a couple of weeks from working on communication, you might find that the rest after you rest, the work you've done has helped to weaken some of those amnesia barriers. And there's no wrong way to work on communication, but we do encourage self-care, as taking care of yourself is a well-being and your well-being is top priority. So if you're not in a good place, probably best not to focus too much on communication. Focus on yourself, get yourself to a good place, and then work on communication. Make a space in your journal for alters to write to you. So maybe they want to ask questions. Maybe they have concerns. Maybe they want to share their emotions. They want to put down their favorite music or food. Maybe they had a situation that they ran into that they want to vent about. It gives them a space not to feel prompted to answer specific questions, but they can provide information that they feel comfortable with. And when alters are given a space to express how they're doing, they can give information that they want to and express themselves in different ways. They'll start to feel more connected and welcomed. So different types of alters can have different speech patterns, and when they write, maybe using profanity as a way to express themselves, talking about violent thoughts and emotions. I think we talked a little bit today about how to deal with alters that are having trouble, but it's good to reach out to those alters to see maybe the person that wants to inflict pain is hurting emotionally themselves. Being able to come to them and express, concern, that can help. That can show them that, they're not alone and they do have ways to express themselves other than just being angry and frustrated. And let them communicate in their own way. Maybe they want to do art, or they want to write a poem, or express themselves in a form, maybe dance. Let them do it. There is unhealthy ways that alters can communicate, and they use them as a form of self-expression, and they're not always healthy. So self-harm, not eating, reckless endangerment. There's more hard-to-swallow acts, and they do that while they're fronting. And, when you notice those behaviors, try asking them why they're hurting. And don't demonize them. Like, they're doing whatever they're doing for a reason. And it's best to ask them how they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing than just being like, oh, you can't front because you've done this. Instead, try to have a conversation with them, especially once you've had that communication experience. You're able to put it in the notebook or put it into the headspace. Like, hey, yo, I've seen you doing this. I've felt that. But don't get them to try to stop fronting or anything like that. It can lead down a path of alters in pain, needing an outlet, wanting to do worse than what they're doing already. So think of it kind of like a child that's had a lot of sugar and he's getting hyper. And now the child has to sit still. They have nothing to do and nothing to help ease the sugar high. It's kind of the same way when you lock alters up. Replace the sugar with trauma and the hype with pain. It's better in the long run for you to let those alters work through their issues than locking them up and feeling that they have to shut themselves away. When you are working with your alters that have self-harm tendencies, try to offer them some alternatives, such as drawing on your skin with red markers, or buying fake blood. It's definitely an uncomfortable process, but it's important for alters to heal and overcome what they went through. And in your journal, ask if they In your journal, ask what they need if you're unable to reach them internally, and let them know that you understand that they're in pain and that they aren't alone, that you'd like to help, because not all alters will be trusting or receptive to help. But we strongly still encourage you to reach out to them. And if they need therapy, please try to get yourself into therapy if you're able to. There's some therapists that do work with low-income households. And I know with COVID and stuff, like, that's a lot to deal with. But it's definitely better to try and get some help than no help at all. So when you're trying to understand the reason that alters are acting out, it isn't always as simple as asking them. The way you cope with the situations will not be how all of your alters do. And showing them love and compassion shows them that they aren't alone. It can be scary and upsetting to hold trauma memories you aren't allowed to share, keeping them safe and locked up. So a lot of trauma holders can become persecutors because they have so much pain and they want to inflict that back because they want some sort of justice. They want to, have some sort of way to express I'm in pain. So it can just keep in mind it can be scary and upsetting to hold trauma. That weight has a heavy effect on anyone, and trying to see that from a different perspective can help ease some of their tension and help you grow closer together. So, working together as a system includes compromising from time to time. I think we all know this, that our systems, I want to front. No, I want to front. No, I want to front. I want to crochet. Well, I want to go to the ball. Compromising has to happen when you're a system. And communication allows you to work on making those compromises. When you're working with alters that have self-control issues, such as overspending, which we mentioned, try to compromise with the amount that the alters can spend each month on items that they want. So say you have one particular alter that really wants to spend money all the time, and you've been working on communication with them and they've expressed that they don't want to stop spending money. Okay, well, give them an allotted amount, say $20 each month. And if they really want that comforter, maybe they can save that $20. Like if they want a blanket or something that's above $20, they can save that $20 for the month and put it away. That's their money. And so they can put that into like a jar or a piggy bank, whatever, and they can save that for the next month. Then once they get the next month's $20, they'll be able to spend that $38 on a blanket and have $2 left over for the next month. So coming up with some sort of compromise like that can definitely help with alters that have issues with self-control issues. So communication has a big impact on everything you do as a system, and it's part of the healing journey that brings you closer and closer to healthy multiplicity. We will talk more about healthy multiplicity in another podcast, but basically being able to function as a system and not be in distress constantly. If you want to help your alters come out of their shell, if an alter is causing trouble, when an alter is going through a rough time, communication is important to be able to work through those issues. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be communicating with you to work through all of their issues. Communication could be an alter feeling comfortable enough just to put their thoughts on paper. Perhaps they feel comfortable talking with one of your friends and feels validated. Alters can communicate with others just like you can. And if you have boundaries, such as your friends not knowing that you have d.i.d, try to put that boundary somewhere alters will be able to see. That way they'll understand who is safe to talk to as themselves and who is not. Getting along with all your alters is not likely. In the case that you run into an alter that you don't get along with, look to other members of your system they do get along with. Ask them to talk with the alter you aren't getting along with, and see if there's anything they could do to help one another. Everyone in your system is there to help you if you're the host. Just like with people, alters will not always get along. There are ways to help them without upsetting them by unnecessary interaction. Alters that want to isolate or just don't get along with you deserve a space of their own to express themselves. Try to give problematic alters their own private notebook. You could let them use the notepad on your phone. If you need to interact with them, approach them with caution. Problematic alters are trying to express themselves in any way that they can. If they feel that they aren't being heard, or on the contrary, aren't being given enough space, they'll continue to act out. When you give them their own space to be themselves, they both feel heard and are given the space they require. See if there's a hobby they enjoy, such as art, and let them have some time to express themselves. Being able to acknowledge that you have persecutors and being able to say, hey, do you want to front and do this activity? That can definitely help them feel like they have a space of their own. Art, reading, writing, sports, and other activities are also a way of communication. Expressing their emotion through the way of a hobby can give them outlets. Frustrated alters could make an angry painting. A shy alter could use soccer as a way to grow confidence. An introvert could use poetry as a way to express their sadness. There's very little talk about using hobbies as a way of communication when humans in general have always expressed themselves through the enjoyment of hobbies. So, I mean, music has always been a thing. Art has always been a thing. Sports have always been a thing. And people have expressed themselves in that way. So with art, there's so many mediums that you can give your alters to express themselves in. And when you use art, you can give alters a prompt, maybe something that they can take and run with. If you ask them to draw or paint their emotions, they may draw a rolling field if they're feeling peaceful. They could draw a self-portrait showing the emotions all over the portrait's face. Art is what you want it to be. Look at me, dyslexic. Auntie, leave it. And you don't need to be good at art to do art. This is something we hear a lot when we make our art videos. Oh, I wish I could draw. You can. It doesn't have to be good. And because you're not good at it, you might not enjoy it, but you can still express yourselves through art even if you feel like you're not good at it. Not everything has to be monetized. With any hobby, you and your alters can communicate. With sports, you could be co-conscious and working together as you enjoy the sport. An alter can write about how they're feeling in a more cryptic manner with poetry, hiding their feelings in a maze of words. An alter using a song to describe what they're going through. That holds so much power, and humans have always used music to express themselves. Alters can as well. As you go through, write in your communication journal, asking alters about the different things that you're learning with them. You can use communication to learn how to handle trauma processing and recovery, learning how to deal with intrusive thoughts, self-harm, and much more. And we talk about communication so passionately because it's the heart of healing. Whether you want to integrate or fuse or achieve healthy and functional multiplicity, communication is the glue that will hold you together. And you don't need perfect communication to grow and move forward, but you do need some level of communication to continue to heal. And that's all I really have on communication. So that was internal and external communication. We went over notebooks and whiteboards and giving yourself space to work on internal communication, talking to one another. The other part about internal communication, which we missed, is being able to come up with something in our world, such as like a messaging system. Maybe there's a couple of people that could be mail couriers in your system that can transfer letters from person to person. Somebody that in your system that you trust. But yeah, so that is the end of episode 5 of the Identity Crisis podcast. You can say goodbye to YouTube if you'd like, but we are all done for today. Check out links in the description if you're on YouTube. We have a book that we're writing, the d.i.d survival guide, which is where we got all the communication stuff from. And yeah, so that's pretty much all we have. This is on Spotify now. We have episode 1 up, and we're going to have episode 2 up very soon. So take a look at Spotify, and yeah. All right, thank you, YouTube, and you have a great rest of your day. #GobSquad.